Hey, and welcome to this episode of the Growth Focus podcast, where tech leaders come together to share their insights and their expertise so that we can all grow together. This episode, I'm very pleased to have Michael Snoyman from FP Complete, and he's going to be sharing his insights and expertise as well as his story. So, Michael, pleasure to have you. Why don't you start off with just a small snippet of your story, of where you came from, your history, and where you are today and how you got there.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Gary. So my name is Michael. I'm a VP of software. I'm a developer. And if you went back to when I was 8 years old, you would assume that's where I'm going to end up. I started off programming from a young age, like many other people. I took a detour at some point, probably around 15. And with my math background, a little bit of an econ background, I decided I was going to get out of the software space. And when I went to college, I did not actually go into comp sci. I decided I wanted to go into actuarial science. I studied a lot of stats, a lot of econ, and a lot of math. I already had the programming background. I did a little bit of programming in college, but not much. After I left college, I went into the insurance industry, worked for a few years in insurance, and then I had been living in Los Angeles at the time. I decided to move to Israel with my family. When we moved over here, there simply were not actuarial jobs. So fortunately, I had that backup. I already knew that I love software, and I decided to get back into that. When I got into the software profession here in Israel, I first did a little bit of soul searching and thought, what is it in the software space that I'm actually passionate about? I ended up finding a language called Haskell, and the thing I was really passionate about at the time, and still to today, can you find a better way of writing software that produces a better result? Are there better tools for better outcomes? I happen to believe that Haskell and many of the things it represented and still represents, was that better path. I have not stuck with Haskell exclusively. I've moved on to other languages, and beyond the other languages, I've also moved on to other kinds of techniques. We do a lot of that here at FP Complete, which I guess I'll get back to. At some point in that journey, I met up with a few other people in the Haskell space who were also very big believers in it. We founded FP Complete, and we've been doing Haskell, then DevOps, Rust, and blockchain now. We've been in this space for the past that set of spaces for the past 13 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, okay, great. And as it's interesting how you changed career, came back to the career, and you found that niche. And I think it's always important when we're in business is to find that niche that we're passionate about, that literally we can just completely focus for it and become known for that. So for people who aren't aware or have heard of FP Complete, can you tell us a little bit about what your company does and the challenges it solves for your clients?
Yeah. We're a consulting company. We focus on hard problems in general. We've focused on different sets of problems throughout the history of the company. We've done a lot of stuff in the fintech space, in the life sciences, historically. We've built up and run, till today, a DevOps/platform engineering line of business. That's actually an interesting part of that journey. We started off by building software. We wanted to focus on software. Software was the thing we're passionate about. But at the end of the day, you got to actually run the software somewhere. And this is, for those who are familiar with the technology space, container-based deployment, Docker, ECS, Kubernetes, all of those things are very well-known tools today. Doing cloud-based deployments, being able to get high availability deployments, that's something everyone is trying to do these days, and it's relatively easy today with the way cloud technology is set up. When we were doing this 13 years ago, it was really at the forefront of that entire development beginning. And so as part of the company, we built out that line of DevOps business mostly to support ourselves. And once we figured out how to build the better mousetrap, we realized, you know what, that's what we can be as a company. We can go ahead and build a better mousetrap and help bring that to other people. So DevOps is definitely one of those major pieces we've done. We've been in the blockchain space for about 7 years now. We added Rust and a few other languages, but Rust being the primary one, to our tool chain, and we've moved most of our development over to Rust these days. Very happy to talk about the trade-offs in different languages. And at this point, our goal is we will bring top-class tools, top-class engineers to a problem in order to solve it.
Excellent. So with everything going on, and this is, again, as you said, you've gone from one tool to another tool. You haven't specifically stayed at Haskell. You continually grow and using blockchain. And the two big things that have been in tech over the last 3-4 years, AI, blockchain.
Yep.
Two great big giants that are coming in, but also very much misunderstood unless you're actually in the industry dealing with it the way you do. With regards to, let's take blockchain to start off with, as you mentioned that, what are the biggest challenges do you feel that people are having out there, either working with or understanding how blockchain can actually help them or work against them?
Well, specifically in the blockchain space, we have an inherent problem. The fact that for most people and the way you view it, blockchain is all about money. The purpose of blockchain is to create a token and to sell a token and everything around that. That's just scratching the surface of what blockchain is capable of doing. And yes, that is the major case. DeFi, decentralized finance, dominates till today. We've done some work in other related spaces like the GameFi space. But even so, you don't really see a lot of utility from that. If I can take a step back, and this kind of generalizes to most of our technology, we always talk about the hype cycle, the hype curve. I think blockchain is just beginning to come off of the hype, and now we're going to start to see where its real technological advantages come in. For me, blockchain represents the fact that you can have central storage, central agreement of whatever data it is you're looking at for whatever problem domain. That makes a hell of a lot of sense for money because you actually care about being able to finalize transactions, not have transactions be undone. But it actually applies to a lot of other cases. If you want to do, if you're running a shipping company, you have to have some kind of agreement between the different vendors you're going to be working with. Where is this package right now? Now, we have centralized control for the most part. Usually there's one company running the server and you've got to trust them. And you have to trust that they haven't gone behind the scenes and changed things. And there are legal ways to enforce it. But the new idea coming out of the blockchain space is don't trust anyone. You don't need to trust anyone. It's not a necessary piece of the puzzle. We're simply going to all agree on this blockchain approach, and we can all validate the data. And that to me is one of those very powerful, transformative ideas that I don't think has really been picked up yet.
No, I think you're absolutely it's fascinating what you just said there. And for those of who missed it, the little nugget I got there was what you said is the blockchain curve. You know, we're now we had the hype, we had the growth. We're at the top of this wave now, and like you say, we're going to be able to see what blockchain can really do now. It's got its foothold in the industry. It's kind of proved itself now, and people like you are using it to its best advantage. And I suppose that's a really good point and segue to talk about AI, because AI is on that upward curve now. This is the next big thing that's coming through. There's lots of hype about it. There's lots of misunderstanding about it, of how it can work within the business and the tech industry, with everyone having their own. It's like gossip. Everyone has their own little ideas of what it can do and how it's going to take over the world. What challenges are you seeing that people have there with AI, if they're not understanding it, or whether it be a security-based challenge? What did you think is the biggest challenge that industry is having out there with AI?
So I will preface this by saying that I have not been the expert on blockchain in our company. That's actually my counterpart, the other VP at the company, Nick Ferguson. He runs the platform engineering side of the shop, and he's been doing much more with AI than I have. However, we've been adopting it, and you can imagine a company, many of our customers are in the blockchain space. Once you're adopting one brand new crazy technology, you may as well adopt AI also. I would say the biggest by far challenge is this thing called hallucinations. And hallucinations in AI is the fact that you can go to an AI system and ask it a question, and it will tell you in some cases with absolute confidence, this is the fact, this is the truth. We had a case where someone was trying to put together a chatbot to provide support for one of our customers' products. And it crawled the web, it got a lot of information about this product space. This happens to be in the blockchain space doing perpetual swaps. Found a whole bunch of competitors that also do perpetual swaps and put together help articles giving explicit details, wonderful details about how to trade, how to get your funds, the URLs you need to go to, how to open it all up, and all of it was wrong. It made up URLs out of nowhere. It's like, well, you guys are this domain name, and they have a path somewhere else. Here you go. And I've spoken with other people in the space. Forget about just the chatbot thing. My brother happens to be doing some work in bioengineering, and he decided to test things out. He also came back with a similar story. It thinks it knows what it's talking about, and it doesn't. My pushback on all of that, by the way, is I'm not sure how different that is from a human. We also do the same thing. We expect the computer to always be right, but that is I think that is the biggest challenge we're going to get into. The fact that AI, in many ways, is behaving more like a fallible human than a perfect computer.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, because we, as humans, we are not that indestructible. We're not as clever as we sometimes think we are. And as you say, we're very fallible. And I think those who are putting all their eggs in one basket with AI, thinking that's the be all and end all, that's where they're going to start, finding challenges and problems with that data. That being said, let's move a little bit further on. You've got a background in coding, and AI coding is a big thing now. It's almost like, hey, you don't need to know how to code. AI can do it for you. Have you had any experience in that at all, or any stories that you could share about coding and AI?
So I've not done it myself. As strange as it is with the description I gave you of using these bleeding edge technologies, I happen to be very boring when it comes to my tooling. So I have avoided adding AI into the mix, either because I'm lazy or because I don't trust it, whatever the case is, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
I happen to be surrounded by a bunch of people who are using it on a regular basis and telling me about it all the time. The thing that we've seen AI being wonderful at for coding is writing test cases. And the way that someone described it is, it's kind of like the AI is a junior dev. You let the junior dev go, have fun, play around, and then you can't just check that code. It's not going to be ready. There's going to be a mistake. And we've seen that happen time and time again. It's a great helper tool, and sometimes if you are completely blocked, you have no idea how to get something done. Instead of jumping over to Stack Overflow, which is the old way of doing it, searching and hoping you find someone who had a similar enough problem and then modifying it, these days a lot of people are reaching into the AI toolbox. And I think that's really currently where AI is going to shine, where we need some kind of assistance, either writing code, doing research is a wonderful one, a little life hack that, I'm a father of 6, so I have a lot of kids to juggle. One of the life hacks I saw for parents is go to ChatGPT and ask it to make a bedtime story for your kids. And I've done that. Now, if there's a mistake in the bedtime story for a kid, what's the cost? There's no cost. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
By contrast, if I go to AI and I say, hey, could you write the settlement layer for a blockchain, or can you write some kind of transaction processing layer for a bank? And it screws that up. Costs are much higher. So I think we're going to start, instead of saying AI is going to take everything over, I think we'll find a few niches. We've already found things like image generation. It's really dominating there. We're going to find a few other places where it's really able to dominate. And then I think, once again, kind of like blockchain, the hype curve, the hype's going to die down a little bit, and then we'll be able to build up a really solid set of technology from what's left over.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, Michael. I think, again, people just to find its way, finding its faults, finding its good things, and as you say, it's shining in certain things. But I suppose the takeaway there is not to rely on it too much at this moment in time. It's kind of like you say, play around with it in various guises as well. And I've one of the interviewees that I interviewed a couple of months ago, one of the biggest challenges was AI and security. Because the whole point of security is to protect it from things, but protect it from challenges. But AI is learning from itself, so it's learning from the protocols of the security. So it's this constant battle with security and AI, and that's a really fascinating space that I'm looking forward to keeping an eye on. So that being said, let's segue to running a business. Your business has been going now for, is it 12, 13 years?
13, I think,
Yeah.
Something.
So what are the challenges? What are the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in business over the last? There's many as entrepreneurs. There's all these ebb and flows and backwards and forwards. But let's just say post-COVID, what are one of the biggest challenges you've had to come across and deal with over the past couple of years?
Well, one of our big competitive advantages from the beginning of the company, we've always been a remote first shop. And that gave us some downsides. A lot of customers, a lot of companies are used to dealing with people in person. And we would handle that. We would fly out, we would meet people in person, we'd do work in person for weeks at a time and then go back home. So that was a difficulty, but it was also a very big strength. We were able to hire people from anywhere in the world, pull them in, find the best person for the job, whatever the background that was necessary. And it was also good for the engineers who were coming to work for us. They got a lot more flexibility in their hours. In the past, we've had engineers who have said, my wife wants to go on vacation for a month. Is that okay? Like, whatever, go have fun. I don't care. Do you have an internet connection there? And that was a really unique competitive advantage we had. COVID, I wouldn't say destroyed that competitive advantage, but it took a lot of it away. The rest of the world finally started to catch up. And as far as I'm concerned, it accelerated what would have probably been a 20-year process of moving towards remote work. It accelerated it in the course of 3 years. So as a result of that, we've definitely faced some challenges now. We're not the only game in town where you can hire someone remotely. Now, compared to a lot of companies who are trying to adopt a remote approach, the fact that we're remote first and everything about the way we run our business is based off of remote communications, I think has been huge. And we continue to go with that. Outside of that, though, the biggest thing from COVID, we really did see a very big downturn in companies willing to work with contractors. It was probably just part of a normal business cycle of ups and downs, and COVID definitely represented a down for many companies. And contractors do tend to be the first thing to go, at least as far as the staff goes. And that's been a continuing challenge. We haven't actually seen the rebound to the same extent, and it seems to be pretty consistent across industries.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that as well. As you say, one of the sounds is people. It's twofold. Because not only the companies are less inclined now to work with contractors, those with contractors on their books, they're having to bench them for longer, rather than find them, therefore have to start laying them off, so it's having this big knock-on effect with regards to that. But what I really want to talk about now, actually, because again, you mentioned it, and I love doing these little segues. Remote. You were one of the pioneers of starting in remote. Now, what would you say is one of the most important things to maintaining that team mentality when you're all working remote? How do you keep them all in the same boat in the same direction?
So one of the biggest things is actually what you and I are doing right now. The video calls, I cannot overstate in any way how important that is. It's one thing to sit on Slack or whatever your text communication platform is and send messages to each other. You're not talking to a human being at that point. As much as you may think you're talking to a human being, if you don't have that pre-existing connection, it doesn't mean anything. And a lot of engineers, as we know, engineers tend to be very shy overall. Not for every one of them, but people don't like getting onto a video call. If I can get onto an audio call instead, I'd rather get onto an audio call for many engineers. And we've definitely come around to the idea you need to have, on a regular basis, face-to-face connection with the rest of the people on your team. If you don't have that, you will not be a cohesive whole. On top of that, one of the things that we've seen is if you just focus on the projects and you're just talking about the projects, you still don't have a connection with another human being. You have a connection with another cog in a machine, but we're not cogs in a machine, we're humans. So probably the best thing that we do on a regular basis to address this, we just have a weekly engineering call. And we'll go through engineering topics because we like engineering topics and we enjoy them. And I've had plenty of newer people on the team come to me and say, I wanted to present on this, just insert random other technology that nobody cares about. Is that okay? Yes, that's what this is for. We want to know that you're interested in, object-oriented COBOL, whatever crazy technology things someone's really excited about. We want to hear about it, and everyone's going to be really interested to hear, why is it that this guy who sits there and writes JavaScript all day, why is he interested in this other random programming language? And that's been one of the best bonding experiences that we've had. I've had people who have left the company write back to me later and say, those are the things that I remember the most about FP Complete.
Yeah, I think like you said, it's the bonding, and it's really interesting, as you said, you make sure you have those calls. It's an open forum to a degree where you can get to hear about their passions and what they're interested in. Now, in the old days when we used to meet person to person, that would be over a cup of coffee, over the water machine, or something like that, where people were just chatting, not just necessarily about work, but what their passions in. And that's missing. And as you and I have talked before, post-COVID, people have gone more into a cocoon, that the remote working is such a bigger thing now, and people are just not getting that sociability where they can have that free reign to start talking about stuff that's not work-related. And I think that's extremely important when you're building a team, especially a remote team. And this is something which is going to get more and more important as more and more companies become more and more bright. Just as an interesting as a thought, we're hearing more and more of the big tech companies now saying you've got to come back to work. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I hear it, and I'm a little confused by it. I can't say I'm terribly confused by it. We've had people on our team who work wonderfully remote. We've had people in the past who can't perform remotely. That especially usually applies to junior developers. And for me, the junior developer versus senior developer divide really is self-management. Remote work makes it very difficult to self-manage. And I don't want to treat people like kids, but I'm treating myself like a kid. when I was in school, sitting in class being forced to do homework is much easier than going home and trying to do the homework.
Yes.
Going home and doing the homework, you've got to exert a huge amount of self-control. It's willpower, and we know willpower is a limited resource. So for some people, I think it is a little bit too much. With many of our senior engineers, the people, and this could be a selection bias, because we are looking for people who are going to be remote, we've had wonderful successes. To some extent, I disagree with the company saying you've got to bring people back in-house, but I also recognize I'm not in their shoes. I'm not running a team of people who used to be in-house, went home, and now they have a reason to bring them back. Assume might be too strong a term. I believe they probably have good data to back up what they're doing, but it has not been my experience.
No, I think it's, my wife totally agrees with you, and I think I'm roughly on the same ship. She runs a tech company, and she went remote probably 8 years ago. 8 years ago, she went completely remote, and her profitability has soared from there. But you do have to learn how to keep that team in check. But you're absolutely right. It's the seniors who have a little bit more willpower, that knows that needs to get the work to be done. So is that something that you just choose to, when you, let's say, hiring for attitude? It's one of the great books I love to read. When you hire for attitude, you're with their juniors, how do you ensure they're going to do the work without being micromanaged?
Yeah, micromanagement is absolutely something we want to avoid. Anyone who's ever interviewed with me will hear the worst version of what it's like to work for FP Complete. I do that on a regular basis. I try to scare people off. Try to tell them, you're going to, whatever horror story I can come up with, I make sure it comes up. I think that helps a little bit. And also, the way we put out our job postings, we're making it very clear. This is going to be remote. You're going to be interacting with people who love to mentor you, but you've got to reach out. You've got to talk to them. And we do, I think we are selecting for a kind of person. A lot of the people we work with are in more remote areas. That applies to me as well. I do not live in Tel Aviv. I live in a very remote part of the north of Israel, very close to the war zone. But I live, as a result of that, remote work works out very nicely for me. And many of the other people who have joined our team are able to say, you know what, I don't really want the big city life. I don't want those kinds of pressures. I'm able to work in this way. And I think I worry a little bit about too much conformity in the way that we hire people. But for the most part, we're getting people from across many different countries, many different cultural approaches. And I think we found a bunch of people who are interested in this way of working. I can't say that we have a 100% success rate. We've definitely had people who've joined the team and then said, you know what, this is just not for me. I don't like the contracting work, I don't like the remote aspect of it. I need to go work in person in order to be happy. And we get that, we understand it, and sorry to see some of those people go. But many other people are very happy with that setup.
Yeah, and I think it's what we call positive churn, right? So, there is churn, but we need that positive churn because sometimes it's just not right for them. It's not right for us. It's not right for them. Let's let them go and find the right thing for them rather than trying to hold on for them, no matter how valuable we may think they are to our company. This positive churn is encouraging. We've got to, because then we now see that the people we do have, if we can look after it, have the right and the same mentality as we do and the attitude as we do to move it forward. So, looking forward to the next 12 months, what's in store for FP Complete? What's the goals for your company moving forward in the next sort of 12 to 24 months?
We're definitely expanding into the blockchain space. There have been discussions internally, which line of business are we going to capitalize on? Are we going to diversify more into different spaces? We're making a heavy play into the blockchain space. We're believers in it. We think it's a good technology. And as much as I downplayed the fact that blockchain is exclusively used right now for money and finance, let's be honest, that is still the main driving force behind blockchain. We're looking at a very likely bull market coming. If it's not already started at this point, it's definitely coming up. So we want to be there, ready to build whatever the new things are that need to be built out there. We've always worked with product companies as partners in the past, or customers in the past, in different kinds of setups. We may be going much more directly into building product. We have not built product in quite a while. We may be doing that in-house at some point. We're keeping our options open, but we're excited. We're just excited to see basically green fields, which we have not seen in about 10 years.
Yeah, and I love that phrase, the green fields. Because as companies have grown, we've seen tremendous growth, exponential growth within certain tech sectors, within certain tech niches and certain tech companies. So that evergreen outfield's out there, certainly is out there. It's a great vision to moving towards, and I wish you the very best of luck as well. And I'll keep an eye on how you guys are doing. So this brings us almost to the end of our interview today. And thank you very much, Michael, for sharing your insights and expertise. It's been absolutely fantastic. I want to ask you a loaded question. It's a question I ask all my interviewees from that. So sorry about that, but it's with our listeners and our viewers and subscribers, some of them are just starting their careers within the tech world. Some of them are well established within their businesses within the tech world. If there was one piece of advice you can give people within the tech business of how to conduct themselves or to grow a successful business moving forward, what would that be?
That's interesting. I was going to focus on the individual aspect. I'll come back to the business aspect as relevant.
Sure, let's do both, yeah.
So when it comes to the individual aspect, most tech people love tech. Not all of them. Some of them are just doing it for the money. Most of us really love tech, and almost every engineer I've ever had on my team, when you have a performance review, when you talk about growth goals, they say, oh, I want to learn this advanced feature of this programming language. I want to start using this cloud provider. I want to do a million other things along those lines. The biggest piece of advice I always give people in school, new juniors, and even many seniors on our team, break outside of tech. Start learning other things. My biggest recommendation has nothing to do with tech. Learn how to write. And writing is a skill that I did not appreciate growing up. I'm sure like many other tech people, you sat in 9th grade English class and said, why the hell am I reading the Perl? Why am I writing an essay? Why does this matter? I'm never going to need to write an essay in 5 paragraphs. It's not going to happen. And I happen to still agree with 9th grade me thinking this is a stupid way to write. But there are good ways to write. And it's a valuable skill. Communications overall is a valuable skill. And many engineers, I think, underplay how important these side skills are. Is it just writing? No, there's project management, self-organization, mentorship, managing people. Every single one of these things are valuable skills that you can add to your tool belt. I guarantee you, if you have no writing skills right now and you're really good at a programming language, you're going to get more value from learning to write than from learning your second programming language. It's going to help you far more in your career and personally.
Interesting. I think, and it really is an important piece of advice there, and thanks for sharing that, because of all the interviews I've done, I've actually never heard someone say that, or anywhere near that. And it is important because I know they want to learn the newest, fastest thing that the fastest thing that can help them. But really, it's not just about the software. It's about external skills or soft skills that they need to learn externally to do that. And that's a fantastic and really important piece of advice. So what advice would you give for the companies, or growing company or business owners or whatever?
So I'll also be speaking to the tech person because I assume people are going to be listening for tech advice.
Yeah.
This same message grows up to the company level. At the company level, I've seen many tech companies and many tech people say, I built the better mousetrap. This thing is more secure. This thing is faster. This thing has better features. It's even easy to use. They even consider that an important feature. So obviously I am going to win in the space. I'm going to make billions of dollars because it's so much better. And then they fail and they go out of business because there's much more to the story than just that. Did you even bother building the right thing in the first place? This happens to be a major problem that we have across the board in tech. We sit around and we figure out, how am I going to optimize the timeline? How am I going to make sure that this project gets delivered in 3 months instead of 6 months? How much time did you actually spend figuring out, am I building the right product in the first place? And we underplay the value, especially as engineers. I know it happens outside of engineers. Engineers in particular, we don't spend nearly enough time thinking about the big picture. How is this going to work outside of tech? Because we love sitting around and fiddling. If you're going to start a business, make sure you understand why you're starting the business and think about, I guess if you want to put it in purely economic terms, what value are you bringing to the table? What are you going to produce, which is cheaper for you to produce than the value someone else is getting out of it? And if you can't answer that, and if all you can say is, but my code compiled 5 times faster than the other guys, you're in the wrong business. You're not ready to start a business at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Michael. It really is important that they see the value that they bring, that others need to see that value as well. So you're not just a commodity. You're not just this new piece of tech. That's it. Because if you just become the thing, you're not going to be a business. And if you want to grow the business from it, it's going to take a lot more than just the thing. And I think that's an absolute brilliant nugget to end on for that. Fantastic piece of advice. So thank you again, Michael. So how do people get hold of you? If people want to get hold of you to help, or so what's the best way of getting hold of you?
So you can write to me at my work address, michael@fpcomplete.com, personal. You can also catch me at snoyman.com at my blog. Haven't been updating it as much as I'd like to. I've been very busy recently. But I'll get there again. You can catch me on Twitter or X, whatever they're calling it these days, at Snoyberg. Those are my main outgoing ways of communicating.
Fantastic. Well, Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Thank you very much for sharing your insights and your expertise. There's been some great nuggets that you've left us today. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have got some brilliant stuff out of today, even if it's just one, make sure you do one or all of four things, which is to like, to comment, to subscribe, and to share with anyone else that you can think that would benefit from that. So until the next episode, goodbye, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye-bye.